We just watched episodes 6, 7, and 8 of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Duel with the Devil, Scorpion Rising, and Tangled Web. And I feel confident in continuing to say that this show is very good. This feels like I'm watching an excellent Spider-Man movie. And I'm only saying that because we are in the end of Act 2. Right, the thing that ends episode 8 is clearly what's going to take us into Act 3, and if that's the case, that means we are in the everything goes wrong phase of this story. And I think that's the theme of these 3 episodes, is just things going badly. I want to look at all 3 of them, spoiler-ish, for these 3 episodes, not for episodes 9 and 10, although we could kind of assume some things based on how Spider-Man usually works, but I'm not going to try to guess future plot points or anything like that. All right, episode 6, Duel with the Devil. So it is hard to not come out of episode 6 most excited about all the Daredevil stuff. We had Charlie Cox back as Daredevil in his season 1 Daredevil outfit, which I guess makes sense because Civil War comes out in 2015 and season 1 of Daredevil is 2015. So this is what Daredevil was wearing at the time. And I gotta say, this appearance in this fight is great. It just proves that you could put Daredevil, Matt Murdock, Charlie Cox into any of these and he works. Put him in She-Hulk, you could put him in the Spider-Man movie as Matt Murdock, or you could put him in here as Daredevil. I love the fight choreography here and the focusing on the fact that Peter Parker is not a very good fighter, so someone like Daredevil, who doesn't have nearly as many superpowers as Spider-Man, but is a good fighter, can beat him. I'm very, very excited for more Daredevil this year, and I'm happy that Charlie Cox gets to play this character in so many different settings. See, I feel like for me, that would be the cameo of the series, except there's another one coming in the next episode that is easily more important to me. But let's look at Lonnie's arc over the course of these 3 episodes, because his thing is just getting worse and worse and worse. And I know we've been talking about how this character is a tragic figure, because we know, as Spider-Man fans, that this character, Lonnie Lincoln, is probably eventually going to be Tombstone, a character who is a villain in Spider-Man mythology, and to be fair, is not the most evil of Spider-Man villains. He's one of the gang-related villains, so sometimes he could be on the right side if he's fighting someone who's worse, but he's definitely not one of the Spider-Man villains that starts as a bad guy and then eventually moves on to being a good guy. So it stinks to see this happen to Lonnie. I will say, I can see the path forward here for him, taking over this gang, getting some sort of toxic chemical put on his body that gives him super strength and also gives him indestructible skin. And it's interesting considering how many villains Spider-Man has seen in this season and how many pretty high profile ones he's interacted with. I assume by the end of this he'll have interacted with Doctor Octopus and the Scorpion, on top of others like Rhino and Chameleon, who he was indirectly related to. The fact that Spider-Man's relationship with Tombstone is going to be the defining relationship in this character's first season, besides his relationship with Norman Osborn. But I'm sure you can make the case that the Tombstone one is more important because he is a character who is in a morally gray area that makes Spider-Man difficult, especially because Norman Osborn is clearly a bad guy and we've finally gotten to see what he's up to, and it finally makes his path forward pretty clear. I was really worried about Pearl in these couple of episodes, especially episode 7, Scorpion Rising, because when she went to the hideout and everything started up, I was like, oh my god, I never even thought we were going to kill Pearl, but maybe we're going to kill Pearl. Luckily, that didn't happen. We got a little bit more from her. Apparently, she loves the beach, and she's kind of maybe flirting with Peter, which is interesting, which again, a lot of this mirrors things that happened in Spider-Man Homecoming, because we have the Liz Allen relationship where he is maybe making some inroads with this girl who's a little bit out of his league, or maybe not the right person for him at this point. But overall, I thought the Lonnie arc was good. Definitely not my favorite part of this week, because everything else is tied for my favorite part of this week. Obviously, Daredevil is very high. Then we have Harry and Nico. These are 2 characters. Now, I remember last week when I was thinking about this relationship, just these 2 friends, I was like, maybe there'll be something there. But I was like, nah, probably not. They don't really seem to have very much in common besides knowing Peter. If anything, they'll be friends, and that'll be good for him eventually. But now I love the idea that this is gonna be a pairing, especially because the character of Harry, I feel like makes sense in a way that the character of Harry did in the original Spider-Man movies, where he was fine, but his dad was a jerk. And I think what's nice about this version of Harry is we're spending enough time with him before he gets pushed over the edge or before his father does something terrible that we get to see why he's friends with Spider-Man. I think it's cool that we've got this component of social media. Harry is an influencer and he's famous, but that is only giving him more distance from everyone else, which makes it easier for someone like Peter or Nico to get close to him. I think it's really smart to make Harry the person that designs the Spider-Man suit. And yeah, Peter already kind of designed it, and they talked about the things that Harry's putting into it. But I love that Harry's the character that makes that happen. And then Nico, so much Nico. First of all, she's magic, and she has magic powers that activate when she runs 15 red lights in a row just to win a street race, which I think is cool. I like that they're kind of messes. I absolutely loved the cameo from what has to be the best cameo of the series, the Clev cameo. And this was Zach Cherry again, and he made that Lydia Beetlejuice joke, which I loved. I think it's so funny that they got Zach Cherry back for this. I need more Clev. I want a series where Clev just blogs about the stuff going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I can see that being very fun. But yeah, this Harry and Nico couple, I don't hate it. I think there's something here. There was a part of me that thought that Nico was into Harry, and maybe she was a little bit, but I think this is an interesting direction to take this relationship with these characters. And I don't know, I thought the flirting was cute. I think it's very funny that we've referenced Zaniac a second time in Marvel stuff in the last couple of years. First time was in Loki. It's a very weird character that neither incarnation has done very much with, besides the fact that it is an actor in a movie playing a character called Zaniac, but he's like possessed by Dormammu or something, and it's related to Jack the Ripper. It could be a fun character to actually do something with in the future, but just the fact that we're getting 2 Zaniac references is a lot. Speaking of references, one of the weirdest deep cuts, Norman Osborn this week had a fake Spider-Man dossier put together to trick General Ross, which I love. I think that's great. I like that Norman Osborn has figured all of this out, and it all more or less seems to be working. I think it is so funny that Norman Osborn is using John Gallo as the Spider-Man stand-in, mostly because John Gallo is the alias of another character known as Ricochet. It is a Spider-Man adjacent character, and it is one of the other characters known as the Slingers. They're all characters that took up a mantle that Spider-Man had taken up at one point and given up, like the Squire and Dusk. Ricochet was another one that Spider-Man was for a while. And this guy, John Gallo, who was a mutant who had like superhuman agility, I think, or something like that, became Ricochet. Positive about this, but I think there was like a push to make him a new Spider-Man and like a popular character, but he never really went anywhere. Funny to see Ross here, and obviously we're not going to get Harrison Ford in the cartoon. I kind of wish we got Harrison Ford in the cartoon though. And I like that finally we got a sense for what Norman Osborn's problem is going to be and how Norman Osborn is going to turn evil. Not that I think we needed that in terms of like, well, I guess they're not a bad Norman Osborn yet, but if we were going to do that this season, we had to get a little bit of it now. So first of all, you have moments like in Civil War where he's saying that Spider-Man, you're not good enough. Although where Tony was like, the suit doesn't make the man, Norman Osborn's lesson is don't pull your punches. You could have beaten Scorpion if you decided to really kill that guy with a super spider punch. And that's evil. That's a bad guy thing. It's something that is kind of true. Maybe Peter does need to reach an equilibrium there. But finally, besides neglecting his son, we have an actual villain trait for Norman. And then on top of that, he has spider blood. And now we can see where the future of this show is going to go. Season 2 is probably going to be the mutate season, where season 1 was the technology villain season. We're probably going to infuse Rhino with Rhino skin armor or something. Doc Connors is going to get lizarded. And that is all going to be because Norman Osborn wants to make his own Spider-Man who he can control in a way that like he's not able to control Peter. Because Peter has too many heroic values and things that hold you back. Also absolutely loved, and one of the best moments of the series, like one of the things in the pitch meeting for the first season probably ended up on the board, was Norman Osborn saying,
"With great power comes great respect."
Also, loved how the music kicked in as it changed from great power to great respect, and we got that bum villain tone. Just absolutely terrific. I said this last week, I will say it again, especially because I've seen him doing a lot of interviews because Sing Sing is, getting some Oscar attention. Coleman Domingo, if he wants to, should be able to come into the MCU and play Norman Osborn. Like, there is no good reason why he should not do that. It's all up to him. And then we have the other side of the villain triangle. You have Octavius. Dr. Octopus, it seems like he's in a different show. He's in a goofy screwball comedy, and I love that for him. I think his scene where he's dancing around and beating up all the guys is great. His horrible haircut is great. I think it's fun that he's using gamma radiation as a way to tie everything together, and as a way to kind of explain why so many of these villains are green, although not all of them, I guess, but definitely Scorpion and Speed Demon. And I like that Otto and Norman do seem to have a relationship, and Norman does genuinely seem to want to stop Octavius. Maybe it's because Octavius knows some secret about Norman that Norman doesn't want getting out, but even if you take just what's going on at face value, everything Norman is doing and everything Spider-Man is doing to help him make complete sense. And I really like that Norman is maybe too focused on Octavius, and we're going to probably get a point in the future where Norman has to choose between saving Spider-Man or stopping Octavius, and he's going to choose the wrong one. But however, saving Spider-Man, apparently Norman Osborn just already has a glider. There was a teeny tiny bit of me, because when you hear a sound, you're like, oh, it's a glider. It's a teeny tiny bit. So it's like, oh, he's on that glider. Like skateboarding, basically. Not as Green Goblin, but just as a guy. But I think it being something that is controlled remotely makes more sense. And we got Iron Man in this episode. Again, third best cameo of this week behind Daredevil and Clev. Iron Man, first of all, looks great. This is like a very simple suit. It's kind of a version of the suit from Endgame, specifically that sleeveless, yellow-armed like suit that we've seen very little of, but is such a classic Iron Man outfit. Looks really good. This is like an Iron Man suit that I would love to see in live action. Well, other things before we get to the last character I want to talk about. One thing I noticed, I love these intros that kind of look like thumbnails, but have the little corner boxes and have the comic look to them. Each one of them being a different Spider-Man cover like you would see in a comic. I think they're great. Just visually cool and a fun nod to where a lot of these stories come from. I also want to point out, this picture we see in episode 8, I think is the only time in the MCU, and I know this show isn't in the MCU, but like the characters are kind of like the MCU ones. This is the only time we've ever seen Uncle Ben in this universe. And even looking at him, I'm like, I don't know what actor would play this guy. But I think showing him in this series is cool. I am glad that the show got opportunities to do things like that and took them. But then the other character that was a big part of this week is the Scorpion. You got a whole episode, Scorpion Rising. Oh, I get it, Scorpio Rising, that's cute. First of all, I think I mentioned that I wasn't sure if Michael Mando did the voice for Scorpion. He does not. This Scorpion is voiced by Jonathan Medina, who I don't really recognize from anything. But like good, fun performance. I got flashbacks to Madam Web when Scorpion started using the word Aranya. And it makes sense, it means spider. So of course, a Spanish-speaking villain would use that word to talk to Spider-Man. However, I think Madam Web poisoned it. I don't think we can use that word anymore with Spider-Man stuff. I think the fighting with Scorpion, very cool. I don't understand why they don't give him the full armor outfit. I mean, maybe he's going to get it in the future, but I think they did a lot of creative things with Scorpion. First of all, love how the tail extends. Very cool detail. Love how he turns it into a shield to block the gunfire. And I really like the visual of him raising himself up on the tail. I think it's fun that he went into overdrive, which is a version of how Scorpion is usually a guy stuck in a big Scorpion suit. Can't get out of it. And, you know, I think he was pretty cool. Pretty scary. He's killing kids. That hasn't happened really up until this point. That line knife to a gunfight, very cool. I imagine, because he is the Scorpion guy, and he has a big Scorpion tattoo, he went to Octavius and was like, I would like to be Scorpion Man, please. And was so lucky that Octavius had Scorpion Man as like an option. Or did Octavius go, well, I can give you Octopus Arms Man? And Scorpion was like, I would like one of those, please, so I could be Scorpion Man. And Octavius was like, well, Scorpions also have many arms. It's like, no, I don't want to confuse the gimmick. Just give me one super cool, stretchy, evil arm that I will use as a Scorpion tail. And it worked. It was perfect for him. I am pretty impressed with how many Spider-Man villains we've managed to work into this first season, because originally it seemed like with Speed Demon and Butane and Tarantula, we were going to get a lot of the C and D listers. But by this point we have a Green Goblin eventually, Doctor Octopus I'm assuming by the end of this season, Scorpion now, a Rhino eventually. We have a Chameleon now who's just walking around in his chameleon outfit saying, oh, it's too much heat, I can't be caught looking like the guy that I am. Instead, I'm going to wear this big white thing that will do nothing but make people go, oh, that's somebody. Like, I don't know, man, ski masks exist, but like, cool. You know, we have a lizard on the way, and we have a Tombstone on the way. So we've really built up a strong Spider-Man villain coalition. You could even maybe count the symbiotic alien as part of the Venom story, although that feels like it'll be a, I don't know, season 3 thing at this rate. Because like I said, I think season 2 is going to be the mutate season. Well, we'll get Lizard, Rhino, Kraven will probably come to hunt them, Morbius with bats, all the Spider-Man villains that are some guy with the blood or skin or whatever of an animal. And also, we're going to throw Goblin in there, too. Maybe we'll get the Jackal. We'll start cloning Peter. I don't know. We got 2 episodes left. It's a great show. It's a really, really, really good show. I don't want to say it's like the X-Men 97 of Spider-Man, because I think X-Men 97 was successful for a bunch of different reasons, but one of which was it captured the spirit of the original show, and it speed ran through like 15 X-Men stories. Whereas what Spider-Man is doing is capturing the spirit of Spider-Man, but doing something very new. And also it does feel like even though we're doing a bunch of little Spider-Man villains, it's taking its time and it's plotted like a very traditional movie would be plotted. This 3-act structure that's spread out over the course of 10 episodes. But either way, I think it's incredibly successful and I think kids are going to love it. And I do think there will be a lot of kids growing up who are like 10 now, where this will be their definitive Spider-Man. And I hope we get like 4 or 5 seasons of it, enough to get into the parts of Spider-Man lore that are stupid. And I can't wait to see them. You know what else I can't wait for you to see? This video's sponsor, Nebula. If you've never heard of it before, Nebula is a subscription streaming service that me and a bunch of other YouTubers, a lot of people you're probably already watching, created because we wanted to have more control over our videos, we didn't want to have to cater to the algorithm, and we wanted to offer a better experience to you guys so you can watch all of my videos. They're all early. Some of them are like a full month early, some of them are like a day early, but every video goes up first on Nebula, and that is Nando V Movies, and that is the Nando Cut, both of my channels, and they're completely ad-free, so there's no ads in the middle, and there's no sponsor read at the end. And in 2025, we have so much cool stuff that we are working on. One thing that I am very excited about is a show called Abolish Everything. This is a live show that happens in the city where people come in and bring something that they hate, and they give a short presentation on why it should be abolished. Then a panel of experts goes in and questions them. And I'm excited for Abolish Everything because like Nebula, we have a reputation for being very smart. We have a lot of very, very educated people who do research and make documentaries, but we also have a lot of really funny people. And I am excited to see that side of Nebula growing. And I always say, a year of Nebula is a steal at $5 a month or $60 a year. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get a year of Nebula for $3 a month. It is an incredible deal. Go check it out. You're going to love it. That's all I got. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.